There stuff, the washer and dryer ain't out.
And work with Brandon to try and steer it the way he would prefer. And hopefully the landowners would.
Hey, Bob.
He's trying to weigh in his head if he really wants to fight it or yes. Oh, hello.
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 Sorry, Bob and I are having a conversation here. Yes, and I explained that to him today. I said, so the process now is going to go forward from the Drainage Act perspective, and the engineer will, do a report. He'll meet with the landowners before it comes to council. And I said, then when it comes to council, that's when you pull your petition. I said, there's, but I said, up until this point, there are costs that have been incurred and you're going to be billed no matter what. So we had a good conversation again today. So I think he gets it, but I don't know where he's going to go from there.
Good evening.
Hi.
Councillor Orr.
Hello.
Councillor Jeffrey. Everyone's doing well?
Yes.
It's Good. Rebecca, you got a shovel in the laneway out, I see.
Looks like it.
Hello, how's everybody tonight?
Good, Bill.
Rebecca,
Yeah.
we have a few people signing in. I forgot to send you an email. So there'll be Adam and David.
Okay.
And Andrew Phillips. For he's on the application for David. And then Vanessa's are also going to be signing in for Adam's presentation.
Fans of America.
Oh, and Dale Erb from BMRS.
Oh, Jim.
How are you?
Good, and you?
Lovely.
Is Martin joining us tonight?
No.
Rebecca, I take it that Martin and Ken have both studied the BM Ross report, have they?
Think so.
Okay. Because there's some technical stuff in there that I didn't understand and I wasn't gonna try and interpret. So I'm gonna leave that to our experts on that side. Hopefully they know and they've said yes.
There was a lot of reading in that report.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, my grades and curves and everything else might not be just up to par.
Well, basically, this is a report that's just been updated.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob, Martin and I both we've reviewed it and had comments back and forth, and so we've had a good look at it all.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I was just thinking that if there's anything in there that should be changed, now's the time to do it. So, even though it has been updated, which is good. Dale's ears must have been ringing.
I was on mute there. They were ringing a little bit, yes.
Bill, you got your internet working at home.
Yeah.
Yes, we were just discussing the report to see if Ken and Martin had reviewed it all, so.
Okay, good. I suspect everybody read it through it with a fine-tooth comb.
No, when I came to starting the numbers and curves and angles and everything, I said, that's up to Ken and Martin.
Yep. That's a good choice.
Hi, guys.
Oh, Jamie.
Hey, Jamie.
Hey. Looks like we're going horizontal. Let me change things here.
Hey, Jamie, how many incoming do you have into Stratford General this week?
Actually, my shifts got canceled today because of our surgeries all got canceled. So I don't know that yet. I did hear there were a lot of rigs there though today.
Well, they're moving 100 out of Toronto into southwestern Ontario this week.
Thanks
Yeah,
a lot.
we'll get some. The only way we're going to get through this though is when we look at it as a bigger community, not just individual cities.
I had a few farmers that weren't too happy with that idea though. And
Yeah.
we're not live streaming yet. I think the comment was you don't take a goddamn sick pig out of one barn and put it in another and not expect to have trouble.
Now, let me
Correct.
tell you, if that's your mom and she needs a bed, do you have the same feeling?
Well, you got to make that comment, but they're just pointing out something that it doesn't make sense. They thought they should have had the field hospitals up and running.
It's a difficult situation, that's for sure.
But I see Peel and Toronto finally got it right today. They're shutting down all their businesses with COVID,
Yeah.
but not until Friday. We got to spread a few, another 400 or 500 cases first. And Justin won't stop the planes from Brazil, India, or France coming in just right away. We haven't got enough cases from there yet either.
Or China, or China.
China's not as bad. Brazil, India, France, Peru are the big blower uppers right now. India's 160,000 cases a day.
My.
And so is Brazil. And there's 2 planes from all those countries in every day into Toronto, full.
Ready? Okay. Well, good evening, everyone, and looks like it's 7 o'clock, and I'll remind everyone that we are going to be live streaming, and I'll call this meeting to order, and we'll start out with a moment of reflection. And I have a motion that the council agenda for April 20th, 2021 be approved as circulated. Moved by Councilor Orr, second by Councilor Corby. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Remind everyone to disclose your pecuniary interest. Hearing none, we don't have a report from closed. Consent agenda items. Would anyone like to see anything discussed or removed? Councilor Orr.
6.11, the support for the fire departments for infrastructure funding.
Okay.
And maybe 6.15 regarding insurance.
Okay. Anyone else?
6.8, Bob?
6.8, okay. Not seeing any others. So I have a motion that the consent agenda items 6.1 to 6.15, with the exception of 6.8, 6.11, and 6.15, be received as information, and that the regular council minutes of April the 6th, 2021 be adopted. Moved by Councilor Jeffrey, second by Deputy Mayor Aitchison. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. All right, with that, we'll move on to public meetings, hearings, and delegations. And we'll move right into our Perth County Planning B0221 Vanessa. And I think Adam's there. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Excellent. So what I'll do with this application, I'm going to share a screen and just walk through some photos and some maps just to explain this one.
Okay.
Everyone can see the air photo?
I think so.
Okay, perfect. So the subject lands are just west of St. Paul's, just west of the train tracks on the north side of Perth Line 20. And so the entire property is this red rectangle. And then the proposed severed surplus farm dwelling lot is in yellow here. And so as you can see, there's a house here. It was built early 1900s, sometime around there. And then there's a metal storage building here, and then there's a barn and 2 grain silos. And what the applicant had originally applied for was a surplus farm dwelling lot having these dimensions that you see here in front of you. And I trust everybody can see this survey sketch. Okay.
Excuse me, Adam?
Yes.
You said the house was built in early 1900? Is that not a new house?
Sorry, I might be confusing this with another application I have in another township tonight. Sorry about that.
It would be the early 2000s, actually, Adam.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Excuse me.
Sorry, I meant to say 2000s. Okay, so The subject land was originally larger. It showed an area that went back with a proposed north lot line that's actually beyond where the barn is. And staff originally had some concerns with this. We felt that the lot was a little bit too large for what our official plan allows. So we had conversations with the applicant and the applicant's agent. And the recommendation that's in front of council tonight is actually for a reduced lot size, which is shown on this sketch here, and it's in your agenda package. But what the applicant has agreed to do is actually this square or rectangle in red here will now be left with the retained farm lot, and the new rear lot line will be moved down to this location here. So this lot is getting smaller. They are going to remove the barn, and both grain bins will be demolished as well. And the applicant has asked if they could retain approximately 50 feet of space here just to get in and out of the rear of that drive shed. There's two doors, there's a door at the back. So this would give them enough land area to get in and out of that building. They have agreed to this proposal. Staff have reviewed the revised proposal against all applicable bylaws and official plan policies. And we have no objection to this application, subject to the conditions outlined in the report. I'd be happy to answer any questions council may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions? Councilor Jeffrey.
What will be the depth of the lot now?
Oh,
You
good
understand what I'm
question.
saying?
Good question. That lot, if you give me 2 seconds, I'm going to scale it off here. So it was, the lot was originally, looks like it was 181 meters. And then we're taking away approximately 50 meters from that. Ballpark about 50 meters. So a lot will be about 130 meters deep.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, hearing none, I have a motion that the council of the township of Perth South receives the report entitled Application for Consent to Sever Surplus Farm Dwelling Number B02-21 by Vanessa Farms Limited, affecting farms described as Lot 8, Concession 8, Downey Ward, Township of Perth South, 4258, line 20, dated Tuesday, April 6, 2021, prepared by the County Planning Department for information. And that the council of the Township of Perth South recommends that the County of Perth Land Division Committee approve the application for consent to sever surplus farm dwelling number B02-21 made by Vanessa Farms Limited as modified by staff, subject to the 8 conditions outlined in the report. Any questions? Seeing none, do I have a mover? Deputy Mayor Aitchison, second by Councillor Zuber. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Anything else, Adam?
Oh, thank you very much, Your Worship, members of council, and have a good evening. And I'm going to just hang back and watch, I think, the next application.
Thank you. And yes, the next one is David. And welcome, David.
Thank you, Mayor Wilhelm. Mayor, members of council, the following report before you tonight concerns application for consent B42-20, which was originally brought before you on November 17th, 2020 for a recommendation to approve, subject to 6 conditions at that time, which also include a recommendation that the area for the severed lot containing the surplus farm dwelling be reduced in size from what had been proposed by the applicant. Following that staff report, Perth South Council provided a recommendation to defer making a recommendation to the Land Division Committee at that time to allow the applicant additional time for further consideration. Since our report in November, the Planning Office received a new letter from the applicants from care of a local septic system installer, stating that a new septic system is needed on the property due to the poor condition of the existing system, and that from a technical standpoint, in their opinion, that the proposed new system be placed within an existing area found to the west of the existing laneway and also west of an existing row of trees. County planning staff at this, upon further review of the new information provided to us, are recommending that this application be deferred for a second time in order to allow the applicant additional time to provide further detail with respect to the required septic system size, and that further site investigation occurs to evaluate the feasibility of alternative locations and alternative system options to ensure that the ultimate recommendation from local council is absolutely in conformity to the official plan policy that regards the size of surplus farm dwelling lots. I will share screen momentarily just to illustrate based on the report photos that we had prepared originally. So I'm just going to share this momentarily. Can everyone see the image on the screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so the report photo in front of you was from our original report in November, and this outlines, the yellow area outlines the lot that the applicant has applied for, and the current septic system is located where I'm circling the cursor here to the south of the dwelling, and based on the letter that we received from the septic system installer care of the applicant, they're recommending that a new system be placed in this area here between the two tree lines. Our original report to council recommended a reduction to this size in order to better conform to the official plan policy concerning minimum lot size for the severed lot. So just to contrast what we had recommended at the time versus what the applicant had applied for in this image. So that is a summary of the update based on our report today. We are recommending a deferral to allow more time. The applicant made a request that this matter be brought forward to council again for further consideration. And so that is a summary of our updated reporting. I'd be happy to answer any questions members of council may have. And the applicant's, the owner's agent is in attendance tonight as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Councillor Jeffrey.
With this new proposal that the planning office wants, will that require the removal of trees then? Because it seems very little distance there to be able to put a septic drain between the trees and the laneway. So would that require the removal of the trees?
Through the mayor, Councillor Jeffrey, we're just recommending that a little bit more research be done by the applicant to explore all options, like whether a raised bed system is possible, whether a standard system can be installed in and about the vicinity of the existing system, which is in the front yard area of the house. So we just feel that there's a little bit more detail that we need at this point to make a firm recommendation one way or the other, and whether the preferred size that the owners desire is actually appropriate based on the servicing considerations. So we're just asking for a little bit more detailed information, background detail be provided so that we can make a firm recommendation on this. And to answer your true question, Councillor Jeffrey, I would not be of the understanding that any trees would have to be removed if a new system was put in the vicinity of where the existing system is located, nor if in fact that's an inappropriate area and it would have to go to the west of the laneway and the existing tree row. So I'm not of the understanding any trees would have to be removed in either case.
Perhaps Mr. Phillips could answer that.
Thank you. What I'd like to do at this time, if I could, Your Worship, is to just go through a little recap and tell you some of the dates that we've been working with on this application, and then I could speak directly to the septic system issue. Is that okay?
I think so. This is the second time we've seen it, so we'd like to be sure we have a clear understanding.
Thank you. So I just want to let you know that my instructions tonight from Mr. Layton request that this council make a decision one way or another on his application. The application was received by the County of Perth back in August of 2020. Originally, what Mr. Layton wanted to do was to sever a parcel that would have went even farther to the north and include the Quonset shed. I don't know how to share my screen, but on the overhead that Mr. Gundrum put up, there's 4 buildings on the north side of the property. 3 of them have been torn down, and the Quonset hut remains. But originally, his wish was that he would be able to sever off a piece that would include the Quonset hut. So the advice that he got and the recommendation from the planning office was that was too large of a parcel, and so what we submitted was this, what we consider to be smaller, more reasonable size, and that came before council back in November of 2020. At that time, the submissions I made, I'm just going to recap a little bit because I know that you've heard them before, but the argument at that time was that what the planning department wanted was for the septic system to go, I guess it's to the east of that line of trees that's closest to the dwelling and the driveway. Okay, and what we were arguing at that time was that the septic system is very old. It's likely to be replaced. What the septic system installer was telling Mr. Layton was that, that's not a good spot. It's not a good spot in front of the house where it is now, that it really needs to be to the west of the trees in that open area because there isn't enough room between the driveway and that first line of trees. So after that meeting, council deferred the decision on this for, I think, another reason, which I'll get into in a minute. But what I did then was I went back to Mr. Layton. I said, get the septic installer to put it in writing where he thinks this septic system needs to go. And that's what he did. So I got a letter dated January 25th. That's part of Mr. Gundrum's package. So this letter was submitted to planning shortly after we received it. So I would say late January. And it says, upon our investigation, I'm going to skip over a few things. In our opinion, the septic system is old and could fail any time. A complete system would need to be installed. It looks to us that the new septic system should go west of the gravel laneway, as the area south of the house seems too low and possibly wet. Upon reviewing your proposal, the area west of the laneway and the first tree line would not be suitable. So this is exactly what we argued last time we were here. For a weeping system, the area is too narrow, too small, and the tree roots will cause a problem down the road. So to answer Councillor Jeffrey's question, if you wanted to put a septic system there, it doesn't sound like you could, but even if you wanted to, you'd have to take some trees down, or tree roots are going to be a problem. We feel it would be more beneficial if we went west of the trees in more of an open area with less obstructions. And then the septic installer took a copy of the severance sketch and drew in the open area between the trees and said this would make an ideal area for a septic bed, in my opinion. So that's a licensed, recognized professional septic installer, someone who's knowledgeable about septic systems. The reason, Mr. Layton is not interested in having a severance for a parcel smaller than what he's got now is because he just doesn't feel like it makes any sense at all. If you look at this configuration of the property, and I think this was confirmed by one of the council members last time, we're not taking any farmland out of production. That grassed area and the trees to the west of it have never been in production. There's about 100 trees on the west side there, just to the east of where the farmland starts. So, you know, if you don't allow that whole area to be part of the severance, you know, what some farmers going to do now or in the future, because they own that, they're going to take those trees down and it's going to be turned into farmland. And this is anecdotal, and I said it last time, but when Mr. Layton removed the buildings and the trees at the back, the tree inspector showed up because he wasn't happy about him removing the trees at the rear of the yard. So we've got competing interests of the county. We've got a tree bylaw saying don't take trees down, and you got a recommendation from the planner that's going to result in those trees coming down. There's an official plan amendment that's before county council, or will be soon, that basically allows the land division committee to take into account topographic and landscape features of the property when deciding on the size of a severed parcel. To me, this is a severance that, you know, fits right in the four corners of what that amendment is for, because up until now, you know, you've had a bunch of decisions that have been made at land division committee that just really haven't made any sense. And what we're asking you to do tonight is to make a decision based on common sense about what is the best configuration for this parcel. You know, it was deferred last time. My instructions last time were to request that a decision be made, and this council chose to defer it, and I understand the reasons why. I think everybody believed that the official plan amendment would be passed relatively soon after that meeting, but that hasn't happened for a number of reasons, and no one's at fault. You know, it's partly the pandemic, but I've been trying to get this back before council for a number of weeks, and I found out 2 or 3 days ago when this latest report came out that the planning department wants to defer it again because it wants more details about the septic system. I wish I had known that sooner, but I don't know what more detail you need than a licensed septic installer writing a letter and drawing a picture right on this sketch of where they think the septic system should go. So yes, it's about the septic system, but in my submission, it's much more about common sense. Mr. Layton would respectfully request the council to just go ahead and make a decision. He'll take his chances at the land division committee when he gets there. And who knows, maybe the official plan amendment will even be passed by then, but it will allow us to move past this stage where he's been stuck since August. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Questions, council? Councilor Zuber.
So we just looked at the Vaness severance application at 2.03 acres, which was reduced, which is fine. So this one, from what I can pull out of this report and recalls, 2.27 acres. So not a huge difference really when we're talking about trees again. And I know I've voiced my opinion several times about saving the trees and that. I don't have any problem with approving this without deferring it, with encompassing the trees and allowing for the septic. It's not like we can hook up to municipal water and services out here. We need to have some logic to those services. So that's my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Corby and then Deputy Mayor Aitchison.
By that diagram, though, the licensed septic installer that weeping bed would never take that whole lot. I mean, he's covered the whole lot in his diagram with runs to exaggerate the point. And it doesn't take near that kind of land to put a septic system in. So,
Yes.
and I'm very nervous of starting. Okay, it was the one before was 2 acres. Now we're up to, I think the lots, we're just setting ourselves up for the future to increase the lots. And nobody's saying that the farmer's going to come in and take the trees down. To me, no farmer would do that because they would be all over them. I don't want to see trees ripped out either, but I don't think a farmer's going to go in and rip out 100 trees there to, I think the guy that lives in that house would have a lot to say about that. I mean, you can get a lease on the land for 25 years to prevent that before it's severed. So those are just my ideas on that.
Mr. Phillips, I'll let Deputy Mayor Aitchison speak and then you can respond.
Well, I tend to somewhat agree with Sam, and I know this to Mr. Phillips makes common sense. Unfortunately, at Land Division, we can't only go by common sense. We have rules and regulations we have to follow. We've done a couple already that were smaller than this that have been appealed by the province of Ontario. So we're going to end up in LPAT with those. It's going to cost us thousands of dollars. And in all honesty, the ministry is going to win. Let's be honest here. We cannot, because their biggest thing right now is protection of agricultural land. End of discussion. And Bob, you know that as well as I, in that last appeal we got, that was the exact wording on it, was protection of agricultural land. It may look like it's common sense, but okay, so we make this one a 2.3, 2.4 acres. The next person comes in, they think, well, geez, they got it. We should get 2.4, 2.5. Everybody wants bigger. We cannot afford to make estate lots in the countryside. That's my comments.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Phillips, comments?
Thank you. I understand what Councillor Corriveau was saying about making it look like the septic system takes up that whole area. Like I agree with that when I looked at that drawing, but I don't think that's what he's trying to do, and I'm not trying to argue that. I think he's trying to say like it could go somewhere in that area. So I'm not trying to convince you that he needs that entire area to take up the septic system. That would be ridiculous. But I think when you look at the fact that he needs that area or some of that area for the septic system, and you're going to move the line over anyway, why would you not take the line all the way over to encompass the trees? If you keep the line where the planning department would like you to have it, I think it's fairly likely that a farmer is going to take down those trees because they're going to want to farm the grassed area as well. They're not just picking up the tree area, they're going to pick up the grassed area. And as far as like having a lease, like the homeowner would not have any right to say anything about the farmer taking down those trees. If you're going to require the homeowner to lease the trees from the farm, like why wouldn't we just make it part of the house parcel? You know, like, so there has been lots of things like that happen since these severances were allowed, where, you know, someone wasn't allowed to have a shed. And so they enter into these 21-year less a day leases so that the person in the house can lease the shed. But then the shed falls into disrepair because neither party wants to put any money into it. And the way that the services are provided to the shed, septic and electricity and so on, are all imperfect. And like you're forcing people to enter into these imperfect agreements to lease a grassed area and trees that just lead to more trouble in the long run. And, you know, what I'm asking for, you know, my answer to the province would be, We're not taking 1 inch of farmland out of production. That's the answer to that argument. Not 1 inch. And sometimes planning rules and regulations and common sense collide. And that's what's happening here. And that's why I love that municipal politicians like yourselves, regular people, get to decide it in the end.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Aitchison.
Just one last point to clarify. The other applications weren't taking 1 inch of farmland out of production either. It was grass in an existing house. And a lot smaller than this.
Okay, further questions or comments? Councillor Jeffrey.
So, Mr. Phillips, how many feet to put in a septic tank west of the laneway? Okay, how many feet of area does he need to put in a septic tank? Like how many? What is the distance between the first row of trees in the laneway? How much further do you need of property there to install a proper septic tank system, other than where the first row of trees are?
I don't know if Mr. Phillips can actually answer that, because I think that is not part of his expertise, but I think most people would probably tell you you need to stay away from trees for septic to keep the roots out, but that's only my opinion. Further questions? Okay, I got a couple comments. I rarely disagree with Councillor Corview, but I disagree with him on his comment that a farmer would not take those trees out. The farmers will take them out quicker than you can shake a stick. And we're supposed to be looking after climate change and health and everything else. If you figure the trees are leaving, how is that good for the climate? And while I disagree with and don't like the size, it's imperative that we also have enough room to put a proper septic bed in. So, and since Mr. Phillips has said that Mr. Luton has requested that the township decide on this matter tonight, I will read a motion and we'll see where it goes. And I don't know, maybe we'll record this just because Zoom is not very good. So I'll get Lizette to record it and then we'll have it clear. So the motion reads that the Council of the Township of Perth South received the report entitled Application for Consent to Sever number B42-20 by Andrew Phillips, agent on behalf of Peter Luton, affecting lands described as Lot 7, Concession 10, Blanchard Ward, Township of Perth South, 5724, Line 2, dated April 20th, 2021, prepared by the county planner for information. And that the council makes a recommendation to the County of Perth Land Division Committee for application to consent to sever number B42-20 by Andrew Phillips, agent, on behalf of Peter Luton, affecting lands described as Lot 7, Concession 10, Blanchard Ward, Township of Perth South, 5724, Line 2, to allow the applicant additional, that's it. Okay. So I'll have Lizette call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor Wilhelm.
Good. Are we done commenting on it, Bob?
Yeah, but I'll make an exception for you, Councillor Corbian.
So I do agree with what you said, Bob. If the land is only going to be used for a septic system and no building can be put on that one side, I would tend to agree with you, but that is a huge piece of property for a septic tank, long as there's no plans for a building and a septic system on that piece of property.
Yes, I would agree with you on that.
So I would agree, long as there's a clause put in there that we will allow a bigger piece of property, as long as no building will be allowed in that open space.
Can we do that? Add to that?
We should be able to make that a condition.
Okay, so on the end, we'll put a condition that no buildings be allowed on the area between the trees and where is proposed for septic.
Let's take your, Mr. Phillips.
Mr. Phillips?
Thank you. Yep, I understand the concern, and I understand why you have the concern. I guess I just see problems with that. You know, what if at some point down the road, it's decided that the house is not worth salvaging. They want to tear that house down and build it somewhere else on the property, or they want to put an outbuilding somewhere. Like the municipality has a zoning bylaw that restricts where dwellings can be put, dwellings or outbuildings can be put. And so you've already got rules in place that do that.
Can I make a comment, Bob?
Certainly.
So I think, and Jim might be able to comment on this too, the farmhouse severance thing says that the lot should be big enough for a well and a septic system. But now we're starting to worry about another possible building on it. So I'm getting mixed things.
I would disagree with you, Mr. Phillips, that our bylaws allow frontages and side yards, etc. But if it meets requirements under size, you can put a building on a lot. And I don't know if David can expand on that, or because that is a municipal bylaw. David?
Yeah, through the mayor, just to comment on the idea here. I mean, if council elects to recommend approval of the severance, there could be a condition that an interior yard setback on the western side of that lot be set greater than what would otherwise be required, so that there is no possibility that, unless relief is sought in the future through a minor variance, that any buildings or structures could be built within an increased distance from that side lot line. So that is I guess a tool available to council to make recommendation through the zoning bylaw as a condition.
Okay, with the condition that the side yard allowance be expanded.
Correct.
Okay, we'll get Lizette to talk to you on that if that's council's wish. I see it, Chuckman. Further questions or comments? Okay, Lizette.
Can I just ask one quick question before she does the roll call here?
Certainly.
We are going to get that side yard thing set in?
Yes.
I know exactly what's going to happen down the road here. I've seen this in all kinds of applications. Like, just to approve that size, I can't support it. But I would if you would put in some sort of setbacks that's going to stop further development in that area.
Yes, Lizette's
I know exactly what's going to happen here. Exactly.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you on that. And Lizette's going to get the proper wording from David, and it'll be a condition of recommendation.
And that's still not a guarantee it's going to pass at land division.
That's correct. Okay, Lizette.
Okay, so can I just get some clarification? So we're going to approve the proposed B4220, recommend approval.
Yep.
With an increased setback on the west side to not allow buildings.
Yeah, and if you want to get clarification from David on that for for fine tuning on the wording, yes.
Okay. So recorded vote has been called, so I am going to start with Deputy Mayor Aitchison. Yes or no?
Yeah, I'll support it with the setback.
Councillor Moore,
I'll support it.
Jeffrey,
I support it.
Councillor Corview,
I support it.
Councillor Martin. I think she's saying I support.
I support it, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Zerbrich
Yes, I support it.
and Mayor Wilhelm.
Yes.
Okay, vote is carried.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Thank you, David. Have a great evening. And we'll move on to BM Ross and Associates. And I think we have Dale Erb there. Welcome, Dale.
Welcome. Thank you, Mr. Worship. And thanks to yourself and council and staff as well for having me here tonight. Everybody can hear me okay? I know I had some trouble the last time back in February, I think it was. So I think I've got the right settings on my computer fixed now. So hopefully we'll see how tonight goes. So I'm going to share my screen. There, so everybody sees the document up there on the screen? Yep, good. So what you see there is the most recent version of the township's municipal servicing guidelines. It's still draft until it's approved by yourselves. So there's still some opportunity to make some changes if you so desire at the end of the night. The original document was created in 2011. Given that 10 years have gone by, the township did the right thing by looking at it to update it. So the recent changes in the industry can be reflected in the document itself. Now, just so everybody knows, this document is in one sentence is basically a summary of what the township likes to see in the way of materials, design standards, construction methods for new roads and servicing. Basically for all works within your border. So it's intended for new development, but it can also apply to any capital projects that the township might entertain. So by having the guideline document, you know, Perth South, they've checked off 3 of the boxes. The other 2 boxes include revisiting the document from time to time, what you're doing right now, which is great. And the 3rd box is to basically take what you have at the end of the day and use it when a circumstance comes up, like a development proposal as an example. So I'm just going to skim through the document. I'm going to speak to some of the changes that were made over the last month or so. And then you can ask any questions that you wish. I'm not going to hit everything in the document because I don't want to waste a whole bunch of your time tonight, but we'll hit the highlights. So just in general, before I get into kind of the main body of it, we did make a number of changes throughout the document, you know, more like name changes to include Ministry of Environment as an example. It used to be that before, of course, we had a government change, and now it's the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. So things like that, they've changed the approval certificate that used to be called an environmental or a certificate of approval. Now it's an environmental compliance approval. So things like that, the health unit name change, we updated all that. We pulled out any specifics like Bell Canada and Union Gas as an example, because they're now not the only players out there when it comes to that sort of servicing. So all that stuff's changed in here as well. So I'm going to scroll down through section 1, and basically section 1 defines the purpose of the guidelines, and really what it does is to provide the infrastructure consistency across the township when it comes to any new proposed works. So whether that's roads or sewers or water main, whatever. So section 1, it provides you with the details of the development process. So at what stage do we get the county involved? And it also defines the relationship between the county, the township, other approval agencies, the township's engineer, the developer's engineer, what the developer's role is. And it discusses the need for an agreement if you were to enter into, if a developer is really keen to proceed with something. So in section 1.5, I've gone through, I've highlighted some of the highlights. In section 1.5, we added this new paragraph, and basically it's a cautionary note to the developer, which essentially says, you know, if you have a development that's going to be big enough that we think it should support communal servicing, so new sewage and water, we should start that discussion really early because that's a big deal. So we're just bringing that up to the forefront. Then we get into section 2, which speaks primarily to expectations related to what information the township expects to see on drawings, and the various submission requirements that a developer would make through the process. So this section, we updated this a fair bit, really just to bring it up to current industry standards and expectations on what you should be getting from a developer. Section 2.6, it speaks to approval agencies, and we added in there the fact that source water protection should be brought into the mix. So that's in there. 2.8, we added private drain connections. Now what private drain connections, they're basically about a 4-inch drain. They'd provided to each new home that, by having that, it would allow a direct connection for the homeowner to connect their sump pump to. And again, this would be at the choice of the developer, and they may find that when they get into the initial studies that they have really high groundwater and they want to eliminate concerns with having ponding water on people's lawns and things like that from the discharge to the pump. So they could put private drain connections in if they wish. Sometimes when you have high groundwater and your sump pumps run all the time, you get that recirculation if it just gets pumped out into the grass. So this is an option that was added. And we also added some clarity on the development application side of things as far as the process goes and what information is needed prior to a developer going to construction and what he needs to provide the township after it's built, which is basically information in the way of updated drawings to show that, you know, if a pipe was moved this way or that way, it's been reflected in the final drawings. So section 3, that gets into the various standards that we like to see for road construction. Many of the sections were updated to reflect changes made in the provincial documents related to best practices. Of course, we like to rely on the work that's already been done by the province. They have their own standards and specifications. So we rely on those fairly heavily. Specific updates, they include curb and gutter related items, curb drops at driveways, updates to the sidewalk specification, different thicknesses at driveways. We want to beef up the sidewalk a little bit where cars will be driving across it more than other areas. And what else do we have? Oh, and then accessibility. We provided further comment on accessibility to make sure that elements within the roadway, like your sidewalks, your curb drops, and that sort of thing, meet the current accessibility standards of the province. Section 3.1 or 3.11, we added a section on site triangles. They're often called daylighting. And basically these are triangular areas of land at the intersection that would actually be municipal ownership. And by having those there, you then have control to limit where things like trees and signs, landscaping features, things like that are put or not put so that your sight lines that drivers have are open and maintained. 3.12, we added that whole section relates to location of utilities. This was added to make sure that, that the final design that's provided by a developer takes into account the fact that they need to provide a corridor for utilities. We don't want utilities strung across a roadway willy-nilly, buried under the ground, because at some point the township's going to have to dig it up, and we don't want the utilities to be in our way, even though they probably will, because they always are. But at least we did our due diligence to say they shouldn't be. 313 community mailbox. This section is new. It was added recently, and basically it's there just to draw some attention to how it can probably better be landscaped to make it more of an amenity than just a box stuck on the side of the road. Snow clearing, that was added in basically to draw attention to the fact that new roads require maintenance. And in particular, when they're not yet assumed by the township, they have to be plowed still and that sort of thing, which is still the responsibility of the developer till the township takes them over. And typically what happens is the township will plow that road during a snow event, but they are then entitled to bill back to the developer to get paid for that. So that's all that is. And of course, some of this stuff just gets added over time based on experience and issues that come up during development. So some of the rationale as to why things like this get added. 316 other requirements. This is a catch-all, basically added to make sure that developers know that sometimes they may need to work adjacent to upper tier roads or other municipal roads. And they need to basically follow the guidelines in that municipality or that upper tier. Section 4, storm related section, we added this, we didn't add too much to this. We added some additional updates related to pipe material for storm sewers. And we also added the little clause about the private drain connections that I spoke to earlier. Section 5, sanitary sewer related section. We added a paragraph on grinder pumps, not too much else changed. And that's relates to grinder pump manufacturer as well as style and location. Typically you prefer not to have a grinder pump within a municipal system, but sometimes it's necessary depending on the topography where the street or the house happens to be. So that's been added in there to make sure that gets covered off. Section 6. So not much has changed here either. We did update the depth of cover requirement for buried water main. The previous spec had about 5.5 feet of cover over water main. We've now increased that to 6 feet cover. Primarily just the deeper we get, the more frost protection you get, and the less chance of freezing of that water main there is. So back in, I don't know, it's probably 4 or 5 years ago, a number of municipalities in this area of Ontario experienced freezing of their water mains. And actually since then, the specifications for how deep those things go has just increased. And whether that's a function of climate change or not, I'm not sure, but safety first. So. What else do we update? Oh, we also originally we had just copper service tubing in there for the water services. We've updated that to include some new plastic materials, and we've also beefed up the joint restraint that's required on water main, so the water main doesn't blow apart under various pressures. Always good. And we also updated the specifications related to testing and disinfection of water main to more closely reflect provincial standards and to make sure that before the thing gets put into service that there's no contaminants of concern in the area. Section 7, this relates to new utilities and street lights that would basically be required for any new street. In here, we added some paragraphs related to telecommunications and where they go on the road allowance. So they have that corridor that I talked about. And the fact that the developer needs to pay for this work, whatever fees that the utility company happens to apply. And they also need to open it up to all suppliers of telecommunications. We do have a number of of telecommunication companies that are in the game now. So they need to extend that invitation to everyone. Not all will accept, but they need to reach out to all. Other additions in section 7 here, and probably the biggest one, includes the addition of LED street lighting. We're living in a new era of energy saving fixtures, and the specifications been updated to reflect that. So the next few sections relate to lot grading, parkland, landscaping. Not much has changed there. We did beef up the tree planting spec as far as how they're to be installed. Section 11, it's new. Asset management. Basically, the developer needs to provide a complete list of all new assets that would be constructed as part of a new road or development. Remaining sections, not much was touched. We did make a few small edits. Typical road cross sections. This is your typical urban cross section. So your curb and gutter, you have a sidewalk or two on either side of the road. You have your street lights, of course, all your infrastructure is buried under the ground. This basically shows you where we want everything within the road allowance, including that corridor for different utilities, gas close to the road allowance. We have telecommunication close to the street lights. And the only thing that changed in this version here versus what we had in 2011, the trees are now right along the road allowance. So we moved those off a little bit. Another standard cross section is the industrial cross section. Nothing changed at all here on this one. And the rural cross section, we just added the corridors for the utilities. And then Appendix C. Appendix C is basically, you can almost consider it a summary of what's included in the larger part of the document. So sections 1 through 14 or whatever there is. And it was intended that it would be a summary, something that's more of a reference that could be pulled out and you could give it to developers of smaller parcels or site plans as an example. So not a lot changed in there, really only the items that would have changed in the main body, like some of the pipe materials. We added the storm PDCs as an example. But not much else changed. The rainfall design intensities, those change just because we are experiencing, again, and going back to climate change, we are experiencing more intense rainfalls than we used to 10 years ago even. So that's been updated as well. So for the most part, that's it in a nutshell. There's a lot of information in here. There's a lot of technical information in here, but it's definitely, you know, you've done the right thing by having it, because it spells out expectations to all new developers that might come along, and everybody's then working off the same template. So it's definitely a good thing to have. You've done the right thing by having it. You've done the right thing by updating it, and now you have a document that you can take to the bank basically and provide to a developer at the onset of a project and let them run with it. So that's it for my presentation, but I'm willing to stick around and answer any questions. So like I said, there's a lot of stuff in here. So
Yes, well, we certainly appreciate that, Dale, and we'll get you to remove your screen, and we'll ask council for any questions. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Aitchison.
Going back to utilities here, Dale.
Yep.
All utilities, but housed underground or direct buried.
Yep.
So could we have something in there where they have to actually put conduit in? And because you see this all the time,
yeah.
They'll put in one utility and then all of a sudden somebody comes along, they got to plow the fiber in. And so what, if you put the conduit in to begin with, you could just pull that utility after. You're not digging up or do a dip all after. So could we have it so we put conduit in and they would just have to pull the utility through the conduit? Fiber companies do it all the time.
Yeah, no, you certainly could. I'd maybe want to have a discussion with a couple representatives just to see if they would get excited about that. But it certainly makes sense to do that, and it wouldn't be unusual that a lot of them would do it anyway. but if you had it in your document, then it's covered off, right?
Best part is you got it underground and not hanging in the air.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, and I guess with any new development, like the hydro and utilities are supposed to be underground to begin with. It's only on a rebuild where you would probably have aerial infrastructure left.
Okay. Further questions? Seeing none, I have a motion that the council receives the presentation regarding the updated municipal development and servicing guidelines by Dale Erb of BM Ross and Associates for information. Moved by Councillor Jeffries, second by Councillor Corby. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thanks very much, Dale. Have a good evening.
Okay, thanks again. See ya.
And we'll move on to Public Works and Drainage Superintendent update. Ken.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Wilhelm. I hope everybody can hear me. The first report is the Scott's Drainage Update Report. If anybody has any questions, I'll try and answer them.
Councillor Jeffrey.
On the Mills Drain, have you seen any drawings yet that that's going to be proposed drain?
No, I haven't. I know Brandon's working on revised drawings. I haven't seen them yet. I think he will revise or create the revised drawings and have a meeting with the landowners is the next step for that.
Can any of that be changed at this time? The reason why I asked Ken, you probably know, Mr. Colford is not happy with the proposed drain because it doesn't address his concerns. It stops short. I'm just wondering, you're probably aware of that. And I would just wonder if council's all aware that some of the people aren't very happy with the shortened outlet. I guess would be best to put it that way.
Yeah, the shortened enclosure, I guess, would be the best term. The outlet still goes. Yeah, I think I'm aware. Lizette's had discussions with them as well, and tried to explain the process if he wants to appeal that.
And like another, I noticed there in the hearing that our representative on the board of the Upper Thames, he stressed how the mandate was to look after safety of not only property, but also safety of people. And it seems that we're not addressing that safety issue now. Are we liable to then, since this drain was proposed and to fill in or look after that liability? What is our responsibility now?
Yeah, I don't have a legal answer, but it's a municipal drain under the Drainage Act, designed to the proper standards. I don't see any additional liability on that. There's an existing open drain there now. It's on private land. I'm not sure there's any change in liability.
But we are not. We're allowing this to stay open where it could be closed and to reduce the hazard, the safety hazard to the public, because public drive or snowmobile on there all the time, et cetera, et cetera.
I don't think you've got that quite correct, Councillor Jeffries. Upper Thames is not allowing it. We went to them, had a hearing. It was delayed for 45 days, and they made a decision that that section cannot be enclosed. If there's issues, it has to be dealt with Upper Thames. And I think if there's someone going to be liable, I'd be pushing it towards Upper Thames because we've done everything we could. Hopefully Brandon brings forward a drain that can satisfy everyone, even though I doubt if it will satisfy everyone. But I think he's done his best to get it enclosed. I think he presented very good arguments. However, Upper Thames made the ruling, and Brandon or you or I cannot change that.
Thank you.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Hickson.
The dill drain, I drove by our up 122 the other day. I see all the stuff still sitting beside the railway tracks. Are we any closer in that one at all?
Yeah, no, I got that in my report too. I wouldn't say we're any closer. It sounds like the large railways, CN and CP, they're in discussions together now with their legal teams and their relations groups and government relations groups was the latest information I got back. It's a larger, we're just caught in the middle of this larger issue between federally regulated railways under the federal regulations and the Provincial Drainage Act. And I think it's driven by costs that they're trying to avoid, extra costs for drainage on their, or the extra cost they ask for with drainage through their properties. So I'm not sure that we're any closer. I know they're in discussions. And I've reached out to our MP and MPPs and had discussions with them, so they're aware of it. There's a lot of places kind of south of us that are having issues as well with CP and CN. So there's discussions going around in, I guess, involving larger entities, including the Drainage Association of Ontario. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't see a quick resolution though.
Further questions?
One further question then. So
Yes.
the township's sitting on all that work that's been done. And sooner or later, somebody has to pay for some of it. Who's going to bear the brunt of the interest cost?
Maybe Rebecca can answer that for us.
So we've had discussions with the province, with the OMAFRA staff in regards to this, and we've also had discussions with staff, and a decision was made that we would do an interim billing on the work, because if it wasn't going to be billed, then interest would accrue on that, and we didn't think the property owners would be happy doing that. So we have done an interim grant submission. So we're to get all of the grant money on that, because the CN portion wouldn't have a grant associated with it anyway. And the property owners have been billed for their portion of the work. So we outlaid the money and then we've now recouped that with the exception of the grant funding.
Okay, further questions? Okay, I have a motion that the council receives the drainage superintendent update report for information. Moved by Councilor Martin, second by Councilor Orr. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Ken, your report.
Yeah, thank you. Next report is my update report. Just highlight a few things. I want to thank our part-time staff from the winter season, except for hopefully tonight is over. So they're done with us for this season. The next one there says we got draft copies, but I just got the final copies of our drinking water works permit and municipal drinking water licenses for both the St. Paul's and Seabornville systems. So we just got those late Friday. And I guess that's the main stuff. Anybody has any questions?
Any questions for Ken? Seeing none, I have a motion that the council receives the Director of Public Works update report for information. Moved by Councilor Martin, second by Councilor Corby. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Pickup trucks, Ken.
Yes, thank you. The next report here is we've joined in with Perth County on a tender for some pickup trucks. We in our budget have to replace 2 pickup trucks, one for the CBO and one for the operations manager. These are just life cycle replacements. They're at the end of their useful life. So there was 6 suppliers bid through the county tender, and the low bid was from Finch Auto Group. They provide GM pickup trucks. Prices were pretty good. Very good, I think, and recommend award to the Finch Auto Group for the 2 pickup trucks, and that the old ones go to auction for disposal once the new ones get received.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Councillor Jeffrey.
Different people in the Perth South are inquiring if the residents or the property owners are allowed to bid on those trucks, used trucks.
Yeah, as far as I know, that's why they go on public auction. They're available for anybody to bid on.
What is a public auction? Or where, sorry?
Sorry, where we've been utilizing it's bids and
You go on website and is it
Gov Deals? Sorry, yeah, that's the name I couldn't think of. Yeah, Gov Deals, and it's a website that a lot of municipalities use for disposal of their equipment and other items as well. So yeah, Gov Deals is the company.
Would it be fair then to these people who are concerned or want the option to inquire from the office of when this is going to be online or et cetera, or when it's going to be?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't expect it to be for a little while. I think the delivery on these was maybe 6 months.
Yeah.
It was in the fall sometime.
Thank you.
Okay. Further questions? Okay, I have a motion that the Township of Perth South award the pickup truck replacement tender to Finch Auto Group in the amount of $72,640 plus HST, and that truck number 36 and number 37 go to auction for disposal once the replacements are received. Moved by Councillor Jeffrey, second by Deputy Mayor Aitchison. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Shipping container skin.
Can I go back and ask a question about the operations foreman's truck? So are we using it right now?
Yes, I've been using it quite a bit.
Okay, because I say if we're not, get her to the auction now because used trucks are selling like crazy. And yeah, that's a heck of a price on those new ones. I can't believe it's that low. Next time I'll get you to order me one.
Yours might not have as much on it as yours does now. Then shipping container skin.
Yeah, thank you. Next report here is just looking for approval from council to, we have 2 shipping containers that we had purchased as part of the requirement for the hazardous waste storage at the St. Mary's landfill. They've changed that program a little bit. Stratford has changed theirs, I guess, similarly, where the stuff is collected at specific event days and the hazardous waste are taken, collected, and hauled away by the hazardous waste disposal company right away that day. So the shipping containers aren't needed anymore at the St. Mary's landfill. They're the smaller sized ones, the 20-foot ones. Just looking for council's approval if we could have those moved over to the Rannoch Public Works Yard. We'd be able to utilize them for storage there for signs and stuff, keep things away from the salt and the snowplow trucks and stuff.
Okay, questions on that? Seeing none. Can I haven't seen them for a few years, so I'm not sure what shape they're in, and I don't have a problem with this. I think you had in your report the only cost would be to move the containers. Do they need to be painted and spruced up a bit, or are they in good shape?
Yeah, that's in my report too. My plan is to, I'd like to paint them like a brown to kind of match the buildings there. I think it would look nice, yeah.
And what kind of cost would that be? If it's in there, I missed it, I'm sorry.
Oh, there's no cost in there. I'm hoping we can paint it ourselves. Just the cost of materials.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Jeffrey.
I see where in our expenses there where we had a employee, gravel road employee, was it a seminar or something? Was there only one employee that took this course in, or was it more than one?
I'll let you answer that, seeing as we're in roads, but we could wait for accounts too.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, yep.
No, that's fine. I'll get Ken to answer.
Yeah, so there's some training that hasn't happened yet, but there is a couple of the guys taking a different course in a few weeks, and then this is for one of the other staff members to take this other course. And if the course is good, then I'm hoping maybe they have another one later that maybe we'll have some more attend. That one was the gravel road school, they called it. Sounded interesting.
Was it, excuse me, was it 1 day or 2 days or 3 days? Or I see there's a little bit of cost there.
Yeah, it's 2 days, but it's all online now, just like everything.
So now we can expect better roads?
Hopefully.
Councilor Corby, did you have a question?
No, I didn't, Bob.
Okay, then with that, I'll make the motion. Reads that the council of the township of Perth South receives the Public Works Rannick site shipping containers report, and the Perth South Council approve having the shipping containers moved to the Rannick Public Works Yard. Moved by Councilor Corby, second by Councilor Orr. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Asphalt paving, Ken.
Yes, thank you. The next report here is a follow-up from the last council meeting. Council had requested that we look into opportunities to do some more work with some of the extra budgeted amounts we had. So I've done some kind of investigation here, and we're able to do some surface asphalt work with that extra funds on quite a few roads listed there as much as possible. That's going to be very close to the amounts. I think it was within $20 the difference between what I figured we had available and what this would cost. So just came very close kind of by accident, I guess, but it gets quite a bit of work done, surface asphalt on roads that could use it in the area. And then next year, just to identify the council, I guess, Perth County is planning on doing a large portion of work on the Perth Line 8 into Kirkton. So hopefully next year we can do some work in that area on along with that tender.
Okay, questions? Councilor Zubri.
So this looks fabulous. That's awesome. That's a lot of savings, but a lot of extra work we can do. Next year, we're gonna put 133 in that, tender. I gotta keep that up. I'm not letting that go.
Would that be a conflict?
No, I'll move while they pave,
No.
and then I'll move back.
Okay.
That road needs reconstruction. It probably won't fit in the budget.
Councilor Jeffrey.
Well, these new lifts, are they 2-inch lift or more?
Yeah, this is a surface lift of 2 inches of asphalt, correct?
Yep, thank you.
Other questions? Okay, I will get Lizette to read this motion for me.
Sorry about that. I had the wrong motion in the mayor's notes. So basically the motion is that the Township of Perth South Council approve the addition of surface asphalt paving to the Branco construction tender for line 26, line 32, road 138, road 125, and road 122 having a cost for South in the amount of $592,007.
Okay. Any questions? Moved by Councillor Zubrig, second by Deputy Mayor Aitchison. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Streetlight maintenance quotes.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. The last one here is I got quotes for streetlight maintenance. I know council had discussed this before and it took me a little longer than it should have, but was able to get some prices from local suppliers. The low quote we got was from Foreman Electric, and they've done work for us in the past, and I know they do work on the streetlights for the town of St. Mary's, so I don't have any concerns with their ability. So I would recommend that we could switch our streetlight maintenance to Foreman Electric.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Okay, I have a motion that the Perth South Council receives the streetlight maintenance report and that Perth South Council awards the streetlight maintenance quotation to Foreman Electric in the amount of $9,220.80. Moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Orr. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Anything else, Ken?
No, thank you. That's all.
Okay, thank you. We will move on to Rebecca.
Bob?
Yes,
Sorry, can I just ask Ken a question? I just realized here.
certainly.
Was it Earth that provided our streetlight maintenance previously, like up to this point? Is that who was doing it?
Yeah, it was a company called JMR, which has got merged or whatever, has become part of Earth now. So.
Okay, so I was just looking at the cost difference there, so that's a huge savings. That's okay, that's fabulous.
Okay, thank you. And I have a motion that the accounts payable listing dated April 16th, 2021 for the period of April the 2nd to April 16th, 2021 in the amount of $110,764.79 be approved. Motion put on the floor. Moved by Councillor Jeffrey, second by Councillor Corby. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Rebecca, your report.
Thank you, Mayor Wilhelm. It's been a busy time. So I've outlined some of the things that I have been working on, and I'll just highlight a few of them. I've continued to do some work on our audited financial statements and our financial information returns. Both are very close to being completed. I've also been doing some annual reporting in regards to grant funding, and that's for our gas tax fund, as well as our Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund, the OSIF, that we receive an annual amount from. We have finally received our final payment for the 2020 Canada Summer Jobs Program, and I've begun the implementation process for the new module for the budget software that we use, as well as an update to the base system. The Court Security and Prisoner Transportation Annual Grant has been prepared. We have a separate report to discuss that. We've made a number of changes again in regards to the COVID-19 global pandemic. We've been reacting as we have in the past to the lockdown and emergency break that were applied by the province. I can tell you now that we are operating the office as a curbside pickup. We have a sign out front, so if anyone comes to the office, they'll call into the office and speak with staff. We try our best to serve the customers in the parking lot to minimize contact. But if they need to come in order for us to provide them with the service they're looking for, we bring them in because we have all of the necessary safety protocols in place. Seems to be working well so far. And we continue to have our staff alternating on days in the municipal office, just in order to prevent staff, if there is an incident of COVID-19 in the office, that it doesn't spread to the entire staff. The municipal drainage grant, we've been working on getting the maintenance part submitted to the province, as well as some additional capital grants. We're continuing to provide the scanned documents for building permits. It's very important right now that we have that done because the staff from MPAC are not allowed to go out into the community with the lockdown. So the only way they're able to provide assessment to municipalities is actually through the scanned documents. So with Martin's new system being all online, all current permits are being sent, and we continue to provide them with historical permits in order to get caught up on all of the outstanding assessments. I've been working on the Downey Optimist Hall. There's an RFP about to be issued for the work over there in the hall. The asset management plan work continues. However, the province has extended the due dates. So it's probably going to put that off until we complete some of the other projects we're working on this year, but we will continue to move forward on that to ensure that we have all the work done before the due date, which is has been extended to July 1st, 2022. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions for Rebecca?
Rebecca,
Yes.
you're going to talk more on the municipal drains coming up on that report? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. I have a motion that the CAO Treasurer Update Report be received for information. Moved by Councilor Orr, second by Deputy Mayor Aitchison. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Municipal drains. Rebecca.
Thank you, Mayor Wilhelm. I know that Council receives information in regards to municipal drainage throughout the year. They receive this information from various sources, including updates from our drainage superintendent, and as well as information from Ken Bettles, our Director of Public Works, and engineers who are appointed to the drainage work. However, this is a report that summarizes for you all the work that was done in municipal drainage, with really an emphasis on the financial impact of the work that has been completed. As you will see, in 2020, there was a significant increase in the amount of drainage work that was done. And I have mentioned previously about the impact that this did have on our cash flow. We're not used to spending over $1 million on municipal drains in a single year. And it was good timing that the province delayed payments to our school boards as a result of COVID, because it really did assist in the cash flow crunch that we would have been in had they not extended those dates. So although it may seem as though a significant amount of work is currently outstanding, we started the year with about $200,000 in work in progress, so drainage work that had been completed but not yet billed. And we ended out the year with almost $1 million more than where we started. So as I mentioned, it is quite high, but I do want to point out that a number of these projects have since been completed in 2021, and the majority of that amount of money has been billed out to the residents. The two big projects, particularly the Ray Drain and the Rollston Drain, have both been billed in 2021. And as I mentioned earlier, the Dill Drain has also recently been billed, and it has the Tomlinson Drain. So that is a, council shouldn't be concerned that there's a significant amount of money outstanding currently, as most of that money has been collected. The grants have all been submitted as soon as they're ready to be submitted to the province, and they currently owe us approximately $100,000 in grant funding, and that represents both capital and maintenance work. The oldest of these grants is from the beginning of 2019. So it's not as old as they were, but the province continues to promise that they're going to get those all cleared up right away, but I'm not exactly sure when we'll be expecting that money. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Councilor Cormier.
So we touched on this a little bit earlier, Rebecca, but I noticed reading this afternoon, the interest looks a little bit low compared to what has conspired, like went on. So I hope, like my feeling on the drains is I hope that the taxpayer isn't flipping the bill on the interest. And I think we're in a user fee market. And I do believe that the people that are getting the drains should afford the interest because it takes away from the rest of the taxpayers. So I know there's a little bit of interest there, but maybe you can explain that a little bit more for us.
Sure. So the interest is calculated, and it really is a detailed calculation. We look at the date in which we actually pay a bill to the date that everything is the project's completed and outstanding. There are rules in the legislation that limit us to the maximum amount of interest that we're able to charge. Yeah, the interest, it looks really low when you look at the amount of money that we've billed out, but I can tell you that that's really just a reflection of the fact that these projects have moved quickly, right? We've hired the engineer, we've gotten the report, tendered the contracting work, gotten the contractor's done the work. And from the time that we've actually had to pay the contractor to the time we've completed and billed back the property owners has been a very short time period for all of these, which has minimized the amount of interest that is accrued on them, and therefore the amount of charge that we have placed on the landowners for the use of our funds during that period.
Okay.
Other questions? Councilor Jeffrey.
I noticed on page 173 of our packet here about that you talk about a new or different in the Municipal Drainage Act programs. What is new or different than what has been usually the same?
I just have to look and see what page that is, because I guess I'm just looking at my actual report and not it in the package. So the construction of the new municipal drain system, is that what you're referring to on the first page?
Well, I don't know, I noticed that you said there's some new or different programs. What were you hinting at that we, the council, should know about? That was on page 173. I stand to be corrected, but I think that's where I found that.
I think that just reads meaning a new municipal drain.
Yeah, do you know what page of my report it's on? And not what page of the package?
No, I don't. Sorry.
I think the only place that I really mentioned new municipal drains is it's just talking about the section of the Drainage Act that we would be using. Are we, there's the section 4 and the section 78. So if you're constructing a new municipal drain, you're going to use section 4. And if you're fixing an existing drain, you're going to use section 78 of the Drainage Act.
So then I understand that you don't think there's anything new or different than what we've been used to in the Municipal Drain Act programs.
No, not that I'm aware of. The program seems to be pretty much the same that it has been in the past. I'm not aware of any changes to it. And, we've been following the same process when we have the third reading of the bylaw and we have the amounts, the estimated amounts for the projects. We immediately submit the queue notification to the province to advise them that we're about to begin the work and how much grant they should be expecting to pay. And we do the work and continue. And, as soon as the work is done, we bill it back to the ratepayers and submit the grant. So I don't think that there has been any changes.
Well, good. That's good to know then. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, I have a motion that the Council for the Township of Perth South receive the 2020 Municipal Drainage Report dated April 20th, 2021 for information purposes. Moved by Councilor Jeffrey, second by Councilor Corville. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Court Security and Prisoner Transportation Program. Rebecca.
Thank you, Mayor Wilhelm. So the province has again said that they will fund municipalities. They will again provide this funding to help offset the cost. For Perth South, we get a relatively small amount, although it's a little different than it was last year. We are now required to fill out an annual agreement, have that approved by council and send it back. That was something that we never had to do historically when we were with the Ontario Provincial Police in terms of policing. I do work with the City of Stratford Police Services in regards to this. They're the ones who are responsible for those costs, and we simply work out our funding into their total costs. The total amount that they spend on court security and prisoner transportation costs is not reimbursed by the province completely, only a portion of it is. So our small amount of funding is simply applied to that to help offset those costs. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions? Seeing none, I have a motion that the Council of the Township of Perth South received the report Court Security Prisoner Transportation Program 2021 Funding Agreement dated April 20th, 2021. And further, the Council authorized the Mayor and Clerk to execute the agreement between the Township of Perth South and Her Majesty the Queen in the Right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Solicitor General to secure provincial funding allocation for 2021 under the Court Security and Prisoner Transportation Program administered by the Ministry of Community Safety and Correctional Services. Moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Orr. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Community Safety and Wellbeing, Rebecca.
Thank you. Before I start with this report, I would like to add that it would be nice if those, the previous agreement, if it was multi-year agreement, so we didn't have to go through this process every year for $2,000. I really do appreciate the fact that they're sending us money, but administratively, I'm going to say it's a pretty heavy requirement on that one.
Yes.
On to my next report, Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. This is an interim report that has been prepared, and it's something that has been in the works for quite some time. This is being provided now as a bit of an update. There had been plans to originally prepare and distribute a draft, like a final report, I guess, and then work on the implementation plan. However, it was decided that maybe that was, there were so many questions that had come out of the original one that they decided just to do an interim update and then work on that implementation plan so that they have the complete package to share in full detail. So this information has been provided by staff and social services at the City of Stratford, and also with the Stratford Police Services police chief doing a lot of the work associated with this. So if there are any questions in regards to this, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Questions? Seeing none, I have a motion that the Council of the Township of Perth South receive the report Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan Interim Report for Information Purposes. Moved by Councillor Corby, second by Deputy Mayor Aitchison. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Can I just ask Jamie a question just quickly?
Sure.
This is just kind of, is this changed from the original report you sent me a few months back to any degree? Because I read through this one and it looked very similar to that. You'd sent a little report out after the surveys. This is basically the same thing?
Yeah, I would think so. Rebecca can correct me on that, but I just think it's just a little further along now.
Yeah, it's going to be the same information for sure. Just, I know that they're working on the implementation plan, but I don't know what the final due dates, like what the estimated completion date is going to be on that yet.
And this survey was done before COVID?
It was during.
Yeah.
It was in the summer mostly, Jim. I think I sent it out and I think a lot of you filled it out. You may have.
Yeah, it's a while back. I just can't remember when it was.
It's all a blur.
Councillor Jeffrey.
Jamie, what is the most frequently asked questions or concerns that this is going to look after?
I think the top thing that came out in all the municipalities is access to healthcare, right? And I don't know how many of us were on the hospital sort of talked about that in their community engagement this week too. But I think that was the number one.
Okay, thank you. Report on request to change boundary adjustment with Stratford.
Thank you, Mayor Wilhelm. So I've sent out some additional information in regards to this, and I've kind of broken it into two separate parts. The first part is the removal of the ministerial zoning order. So that's the Ontario Regulation 356/20. And then the second part is in response to communications that we have received from the Vaness family in regards to their property that was included in the annexation to Stratford that was effective August 1st, 2020. So I'm going to start with the proposed revocation of the minister's zoning order. We had previously supported the request from the city of Stratford, the township of Perth South, and the county of Perth for the ministerial zoning order in order to make the necessary planning amendments to allow for the float glass plant that had been proposed by Chenier Canada Glass on a portion of the lands that had been annexed to the city of Stratford. So the ministerial zoning order applied only to the Vaness property in terms of the ministerial zoning order itself. We heard on February the 16th, we heard from Chenier Glass Canada that they had provided notice that they are no longer going to proceed with the proposed project. It had been indefinitely suspended. And at a meeting held at the city of Stratford in the beginning of March, the city of Stratford passed a motion requesting that the ministerial zoning order on that property be removed. And that notice was sent to Minister Clark. Minister Clark has received that and has initiated the process to remove the ministerial zoning order and or at least to consider the removal. As part of that process, they have to put a notice into the local newspaper and receive comments from the public for consideration in his decision about whether or not he's going to remove that special zoning order that's been placed on those lands. An advertisement has been placed in the Beacon Herald, and a copy of that has been attached to the report that was distributed earlier. So if council wishes to make any comments in regards to the, like this would be specifically to the ministerial zoning order being removed from the Vaness lands, we would have to make comments before May the 7th of 2021 in order for those comments to be considered by the minister in making his decision. So I've prepared this information for council to consider whether or not they want to do, whether or not you'd like to make any comments in regards to that. So maybe we could pause and have some discussion in regards to that before we move on to the second part.
Yep. Questions for Rebecca on that? Seeing that, oh, Councillor Jeffrey.
Is the Vaness family the only ones that are requesting to be, I guess, back in the township of Perth South?
Yes, we've only received a written request from the Vaness family. We have not received anything else.
And that request does not include what people normally refer to as the Deco property, or like half of the Deco property that was annexed off of was that road 29 and between a road, I forget the name of the road, but
Yes, they are referring specifically to parts lot 2, 3, and 4 on concession 5 when they ask for their removal. So that is the property that is to the west of Road 119, Highway 7, and south of Line 29.
Thank you.
I think Councillor Martin.
I'm just wondering, do we send a letter in support, or can we, in support of removing that MZO on the float glass? If there's no more float glass going in there, it just doesn't make any sense if that's. Is that what they're looking for from us? Support on that, Rebecca? Is that what you mentioned?
Well, it's completely up to council to decide whether or not you wanted to submit any comments. You don't have to. It's a public consultation period, and given that it is on lands that were in our municipality and as part of this annexation, I thought it would be of interest to council, and possibly that's something that you may wish to comment on.
Deputy Mayor Aitchison.
Basically, that MZ zoning, it's going to get eliminated. Stratford's asked for it. It would be done, but if they didn't have to have a 30-day appeal process, or consultation process is a better word. I think maybe what a couple of the councillors have mentioned here was actually the request made by the Van Ness family, which is a completely separate ask of removing the MZO zoning. So that's something you have to deal with it separately.
Yes, and I'm going to, once discussion's over, I'm going to put a motion forward to receive that. So we do it separate. Council Martin mentioned about sending a letter of support for the removal of the MZO. Any further comments on that?
So, Bob, I have a comment. So going forward, so I guess that kind of eliminates the deal we have with Stratford on all that lands?
No, the MZO just removes the minister's order for planning, etc., on that what is still the Van Ness property only.
So future development would have to start another process if there was development to be on Van Ness's property?
I'll let Rebecca respond to that, but yes.
Oh, okay.
Since the questions are all related to actually the request to remove the Van Ness property from the annexation, maybe we can jump into that discussion and then come back to the discussion about whether or not you want to provide comments on the MZO. So the MZO was brought in as a means of expediting the process for planning. Instead of going through a lengthy public process, the province decided it was in the best interest of all parties, the province and the municipalities, that the zoning be changed quickly, and they had placed the MZO on the property in order to facilitate a float glass plant on the property. So separate from that, the Township of Perth South, the County of Perth, and the City of Stratford entered into negotiations for the annexation of land. The reason that the City of Stratford wanted the land was because they were out of industrial land and they wanted more land to develop for that purpose. The land that was annexed was south of Stratford and adjacent to their existing industrial park, so it made sense that that land would be used to expand the industrial park. At that time, we entered into an annexation agreement that specified all the details of the transfer, such as the assets, the date of the effective date, and so on. And on August 1st, the minister approved the annexation. Also associated with the annexation was a compensation agreement, and that was to allow for the tax sharing of revenue on the annexed land. So when any of those lands are developed, we would then receive a 28% portion into perpetuity of those taxes. So there is no option when we consider the Vaness family request to remove the property. There is no option to, let's say, reverse or to appeal the municipal boundary adjustment. It's a final decision. So if you wanted to make a municipal boundary application to remove the Vaness farms from the city of Stratford back into Perth South, we'd have to begin the process from scratch. So what we would have to do is propose a boundary adjustment agreement. We'd have to specify all the details, and we'd have to share that with the County of Perth and the City of Stratford. The annexation agreement wasn't written with the ability to remove properties, and neither was the compensation agreement. So if you were to enter into a new municipal boundary agreement, you would have to rewrite your existing compensation agreement and your and the annexation agreement. So we'd have to follow the entire process from the beginning. We would prepare the documentation, we'd advertise it to the public, we'd hold public meetings, and we'd do the Indigenous consultations. That part might be a bit speedier because we've already done the investigations on the properties. But then you also have to get the triple majority. You have to get the County of Perth to agree to the annexation agreement, and you'd have to get the City of Stratford as well to agree to it. And I haven't really been able to nail down what the total cost would be. Obviously, the entire process is time consuming, and you'd also have to have a lawyer. So there definitely would be cost associated with it for sure. But that it is a kind of a high level summary of the process that we would have to go through if we were to remove the Vaness farm from the City of Stratford, and that's just beginning the process to proposing a brand new municipal boundary adjustment.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Council Martin and then Council Corby.
I think my one concern all along with this is we continue to hear that Stratford doesn't have industrial land, yet 15 years ago, Bosser's Farm was brought into the city limits of Stratford on this side. And it doesn't ever seem to be counted in industrial land. So that is part of the boundary now that was taken from Perth South, that's in Stratford. And I just think that that needs to be, I don't know why, and I know you guys can't answer that because you're not the city, but when they say they need this land, we still have a 100-acre farm that's now been out of our township and in the city limits for 15 years for no reason. So I understand that that specific property was needed for the float glass, and now that's not on the table. So I understand that it's expensive, but I do think it's worth looking into to not have that weird jut out the one side of the highway with that property. Because then I feel like later on we'll start to get into, well, now we need to round out the boundaries and then it'll be the other side and so on. So anyways, that was my only point on that, and I wanted to share that.
Thank you. Councillor Corby.
I guess we're always looking for another way to raise revenue, and once the property is taken back out, have we lost the ability for more revenue?
Do you mean if it comes back to Perth South?
Yeah, so we've lost the ability for industrial development if it comes back into Perth South.
Rebecca?
So the reason that the reason that we annexed the land to the City of Stratford, there's several reasons. One of them was definitely had a financial aspect to it, and that was that we wanted to replace the revenue that we lost from the OMPF. So the $2 million that was cut by the province. So we would like to develop the land as industrial lands ourselves, but we're limited because we don't have the water and wastewater services that are necessary in order to service the land and develop it ourselves. So that is why we entered into the annexation and the partnership with Stratford. We're able to provide them with the land that they need for industrial purposes, and they're able to provide the water and the various servicing needs to the property to have that developed. And then once it is developed, we share in that tax revenue. So if you were to take out that property, it would transfer back into farmland, and it would not likely be developed for industrial purposes.
Deputy Mayor Aitchison.
Rebecca's correct. But in order for that to someday down the road be developed as industrial, you'd have to have a willing seller of the property. I'm not so sure that's the case anymore. I think the Vaness family did that when they did it because they knew it was going to be a great investment for the area, not just Perth South Stratford, but the entire county. And that has kind of fallen by the wayside. And I think you'd be hard pressed to get the Vaness family to sell that land for any sort of development at this point in time. That's just my opinion in a couple of conversations I've had. So to think you're going to leave it in the city of Stratford and be developed as industrial, I wouldn't hold your breath on that one.
Okay. Councilor Orr.
I'd just like to ask Rebecca, at one point in time, I had a ballpark figure of what the lawyers' costs for this are. You don't have any ballpark figure of what it would cost. And is that cost then put on the municipality because we are reaching out? And my other second part of this is, you said that it has to be 2/3 vote on all three councils. How, even if we wanted to, does that mean, and Stratford chooses not to, it can't happen, right?
Yes. So in answer to your first question, the Township of Perth South has now been involved in 2 annexations, and Stratford has always been the lead. So they've done all the work and they've assumed all the costs. So therefore, it's not easy for me to just look it up and see what it's going to cost. I do know what it costs for our lawyer, and I do know that there would be some legal fees associated with it. Definitely there'd be some savings probably in the area of the Indigenous investigation, because some of those reports have been done before, but I haven't really been able to nail down a total cost. But yes, we, as the municipality making the request, we would be the one that would cover that cost, unless we would agree that in an agreement we could ask that everybody's sharing it, but I don't think that would be likely. In regards to the second part of your question, you're going to have to tell me the second part again. I'm sorry.
Just going back to the 2/3 majority vote needed on all three councils. I guess I don't really want to waste our time if we have the sense that Stratford's not going to do it, because like Jamie said, the front page of the paper just recently again was they're looking for more industrial lands.
Right. Sorry about that. All the municipalities would have to agree. So similar to the annexation when the Township of Perth South and the County of Perth annexed land to Stratford, Township of Perth South had to have a majority vote, and so did County Council. They needed that majority vote in order to agree to transfer the land, and Stratford needed a majority vote in order to receive it. So there has to be that triple majority in support of the whole application. If we were to approve it, if we were to go through the process of preparing the new annexation document, negotiating a new compensation agreement, it would have to be presented and approved by not only our council, the majority of our council, it would have to be approved by the County of Perth and the City of Stratford, again receiving the majority of support there as well.
Okay, further questions? Councillor Jeffrey.
Since the Vaness family now has initiated this, are they willing to help or bear the cost of this to get it back out of the city?
that's a discussion that I haven't had with them in regards to that.
Deputy Mayor Richardson.
Maybe the first discussion that should take place before you make any decisions is either the Vanessa family or the township have a discussion with the city of Stratford, because I know they are doing a new needs study or something for industrial land, or they're working on some sort of study apparently. But you talk to the city of Stratford, they said we're not a prayer's chance, and that pretty well ends your discussion, doesn't it?
Yes, and if you would like, I can certainly have that conversation with the mayor and get a feeling of what his council would think of that idea. Councilor Corview.
We talk about Stratford not having any industrial land or running out of it, but we don't really have any either. So it's kind of a lost opportunity in some ways if it does go back to Perth South. Because we made a pretty sweet deal with Stratford, but we're gonna give that up if it comes back to us.
Yes, Deputy Mayor Richardson.
Sam's correct, but you also have to have a willing seller of the land. You always have to remember that.
But Jim, we're in crazy times, and it doesn't seem like money means that much anymore. It's just, we talked about that, you and I today, about how things are selling. It's just unbelievable what has taken place.
I don't think it's a matter of, the money is a non-issue in this.
Yeah.
It's a non-issue. This is the original home farm. They had a difficult decision making that decision the first time. I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen again.
Councilor Jeffrey.
Having some talks with the owner of the farmland. What would happen if he builds a pig barn there? Because that's in the talk. He's thinking about building a pig barn on that property now, since it's not going to be Zinni isn't going to put there, so that he's going to farm it.
I would think currently that as long as he meets all the requirements, there's nothing to stop him. Rebecca?
Since the lands are currently in the city of Stratford, that would be an application that would be made to the city of Stratford directly.
Yeah. It still is zoned agriculture though, right? So.
Well, it's currently zoned float glass plants, where if the ministerial zoning order comes off to agricultural.
I'm pretty sure we know that's going to be removed, so.
I'm sure.
So. Okay, further questions or comments? I guess with well, first off, I'm going to go back to the MZO, removal of the MZO. Council Martin requested if there was support to send a letter supporting the removal of the MZO. Does anyone else want to second that? Deputy Mayor Richardson? Okay, so if we do
you're talking just a letter of support for the removal of the MZO zoning. That's all you're talking.
Yeah. I think that's probably what all we need, right? What is that?
And then John could build his new pig barn.
Well, I think it's going whether we support it or not, but anyways, let's see a show of hands for the supporting a letter be sent to the ministry. Okay, that's approved. And next I have the motion to receive the removal of the MZO for the Vanessa property for information. Moved by Councilor Jeffrey, second by Councilor Martin. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Now, further to the removal of the Vanessa property from the city of Stratford, I think we should receive Rebecca's report and defer it for more information.
I agree.
Okay, so that'll be moved by Counselor Jeffrey, second by Counselor Orr. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Anything else, Rebecca?
No, that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the clerk's update. Lizette?
Thank you, Mayor Wilhelm. You have my update report in front of you. There's been lots going on with planning, drain conversations with some of the property owners on the Mills of War drain. Some of you participated in the listened to the hearing committee on that drain. As well, I've been working with Adam Kozlowski of the Perth County Planning. We're trying to fine tune some of our processes. He wants to do things a little differently, and he's been a great resource and just getting to know some of the way he thinks. And I've also been participating in I'm going through the implementation of our new software. So I apologize. It's going really well, but I apparently am still making mistakes. So we'll get there. But it's I really like the new system, and it's much easier to work with. Yeah, I don't think I have anything other than that.
Okay, any questions for Lizette? Okay, I have a motion that the clerk's update report be received for information. Moved by Councillor Zubrig, second by Councillor Martin. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And I have a motion that the report regarding council payroll March 2021 dated April 20th, 2021, including total payroll of $4,726.69 be approved. Motion put on the floor. Councillor Corview, second by Councillor Jeffrey. Questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. All right, we have correspondence, and with that, I think we have got 6.8. I think that was Councillor Jeffries, if I recall, on the 6.8. Town of Amherstburg, support for agricultural tile drainage. Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you. Looking into this, as Amherstburg has followed or supported Howick municipality resolution, and if you look at page 36 on our agenda, it shows in the middle of that resolution, it says to require tile drainage contractors file farm tile drainage installation plans with the local municipalities. That's really putting the horse before the cart, but they want this resolution that they then went and sent it to all these different associations that I think that we should do too in opposing of this. If this was to go through and add it to the Drainage Act, would require within a short time a permit fee to be able to drain farmland, and we'd be in the same mix that we're already in with the conservation authorities with the municipal drains, which I am opposed to. So I oppose this. I do not think we need more red tape as a farmer who is paying for the drainage to be done, and as a farmer, you contract a licensed tile installer who is trained and guidelines to follow by that he has to maintain his license. This is totally unnecessary. and talking with the councilors of Howick Township today, they, it was initiated by their drainage superintendent, who has never owned a farm, but is a retired township municipality employee for most of his life, which, and no offense, but to be able to understand what the potential to happen here is very detrimental to the farming agriculture industry. And so I would like to make a motion that we send a resolution to not support this, but to leave the Tile Drainage Act as it is, with farm drainage on private property.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion? Deputy Mayor Aitchison. Discussions?
Kind of got to agree with Bill. I think you're turning this into a similar thing with the conservation authorities on municipal drains. When you want to put your plans in, that's heading in the direction of a permit fee and somebody else having a look at it. I think we have great tile drainage people. They're all licensed. Let them do it. If they want to file the tile drain map when the work is completed, I haven't got a problem with that. But I'm not filing a plan when I want to do some tiling on my farm.
You, Councillor Orr, and then Councillor Zuber.
I'm in agreement. I just think if after the fact, if somebody wanted to voluntarily put it in their file at the municipality, that's fine for future generations, but not mandatory.
Thank you. Councillor Zuber.
Well, if I'm reading this right, it says he believes it would be beneficial, if to file a plan following completion of the work. So isn't that what we're saying? Like, that's not one of the ABCs. It's just a kind of recommendation afterwards. Like, hey, wouldn't it be nice to have that, for records going forward, I guess. I mean, I don't know that it's necessary, but it's more, to me, I read that more as a suggestion, not a, this is what we have to do type deal, but anyway.
Okay. Further questions or comments? Councillor Jeffrey.
Relating to the way it's read there on page 36, it says required tile drainage contractors file farm drainage installation plans with the local municipality. So if the project isn't done, it plans to do it. And when you send that in and if I forget the pages where it's all listed, all the people that they send it to support it, it's alarming. Like this just isn't just send it to municipalities. No, this is to send it even to the licensed contractors who license the contractors, to all the farm associations, etc. And I'm surprised that none of them have commented on it yet. But no, this is a foot in the door, and Howick Township, I'm really surprised, and I explained to him today why they knew nothing about the experimental farm at Huron View in Clinton, which the Sable Bay Field and the Huron Soil and Crops Association went together and hired an environmental consultant out of Michigan to draw up the plans for this experimental drainage, and the Soil and Crops directors, half of them walked away from it, and even from the Soil and Crops Association, because of the what they were trying to prove with going back 75 or 100 years on tile drainage, which would not be profitable at all for today's to be able to profit, or to profit in to stay in business in agriculture. To spend that much money in land and not do it properly, and what they have done there at Huron View is appalling. And they agreed with me after we talked about it for a bit. They both agreed with me that, yeah, this maybe is not a good resolution. And I told them that I would be bringing a motion ahead tonight at our council to say that we are not in favor of this, and they agreed with me. So they know up front what I am thinking. And so that's just and they agreed too that it'd be a foot in the door, and in no time we would have the same supervision as a municipal drain before you do any work.
Okay. Seeing no other hands up, it's been moved by Councillor Jeffrey and second by Councillor or Deputy Mayor Aitchison that we send off a letter in opposition to the Howitz letter as far as field tile drainage and reporting a plan. I'll let Lizette work out of the words and also who all we're going to send it to. So all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And we move on to Councillor Orr. I think you asked for 6.11.
Yeah, it was just in regard to potentially that the federal and provincial government includes training and equipment and structure so that they could be eligible for infrastructure funding. I thought actually that might be a good solution to try to get some funding for all three of our fire departments. I don't know if that'll go forward, but I would fully support trying to get money that way.
Other thoughts? Does anyone want to support Deputy Mayor Aitchison?
Not a bad idea.
Okay. So with that, further questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, and 6.15, I believe it was, also Councillor Orr.
Yeah, it's just another one of those letters regarding how high insurance rates are getting. And I mean, I think that maybe we should all, I don't know if the County of Perth is looking at different ways, but can we look forward or look into this further to see if there's any way that we could save some money working with different solutions on how to get insurance for us all. Like I had a brief discussion with Rebecca regarding how much it's changed in the last 5 years for us, and it is alarming. So
Yes, this has been an ongoing battle since I came on council about joint and several liabilities. And now, of course, the increases have become quite drastic too. You know, and the insurance companies haven't been making money. And if you look at the settlements, they just skyrocketed. So we can certainly express our concerns, but it's an ongoing battle. Other thoughts? Rebecca?
I've recently signed up for an information session that's being offered by LAS. So that's a kind of an arm of AMO, and it looks at insurance and ways that municipalities can maybe look to reduce insurance costs. So obviously it's a big concern for us for sure. So I was looking for options that we can help reduce our current insurance costs. So I'll bring it up to council once I've done that.
Okay, that'll be great. Councillor Corby.
I just wondered kind of why the government isn't in the insurance business for the municipalities, but in some regard, how do we put out a tender for our insurance rate, or how do we go about getting our insurance? Like, what's it through?
Rebecca?
We publicly tender that, and we do it on a cyclical basis. I want to see it's about every 5 years, and probably done jointly with the county. One of the problems we find is that we're in different cohorts, I guess, almost, in that we have different renewal dates. So I think there's been some effort by the municipalities to try and align that so that we're all together and maybe give ourselves some more buying power, I guess, to try and get a better deal.
Right. Okay.
Deputy Mayor Aitchison.
The last time we did that, the quotes are everyone out, the RP. We actually, Perth South has a different provider than the county of Perth. And our rates at Perth South haven't gone up near as much as those at the county of Perth, just so you know. But I have talked to a couple of people this last year that put out RFPs for insurance and had actually no one want to bid on them because it's municipal insurance. The big thing is your credit risk management. And if it's not good, you're not going to get another provider.
Councillor Jeffrey.
Is this not a job for Roma? Like we went there, I went there to Toronto a couple of times, and that seemed to be on the discussion table every year. Until the justice system changes and stops awarding these high what do you call it, claims, and it seems that just between me and you, it seems between the lawyer and the lawyers and the judge, they're all in this together. So I don't know how this is going to rectify unless the government steps in and stops these high claims.
Okay. Well, I think we'll have a good discussion. I think we'll leave that. And once Rebecca kind of takes her webinar or course, whichever it is, she can report back on how we're going to cut our insurance costs in half or somewhere. All right. I think that's it with those. So we'll move on to Mayor and Councillor members' report. And it looks like Councillor Corview is up in the corner. So we'll start with him. Councillor Corview.
Everything's good on line 11, Bob.
That's great. Councillor Orr.
Actually, kind of a little busy. I did that code of conduct training with Perth County. Yeah, it was a good 3 hours of learning. But yeah, it looks like we have to update our code probably after the next election. I did find Debbie Wilcox, the woman right afterwards, to talk about effective meetings. I thought she was great and she had a lot of good points. I did an MPAC webinar on farmland assessment, participated in the roundtable discussion for Perth County in regard to the diversity issues. Also did the Huron Perth Hospital update Zoom call. And then Jamie and I had a nice meeting with Upper Thames, and I'll let her talk to that as well. So tomorrow night, I look forward to the Zoom call with the Mosh and the Pool Committee. So.
Oh, I haven't received notice on that.
Oh, okay. I'll make sure you're included.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Aitchison.
Yeah, actually, first I've heard of that meeting too, but that's fine. I got lots on. Actually, been really busy, but nothing really related to Perth South. Mobility bus is existing, doing well. And Sue, just further to your insurance discussion, that's our biggest increase in the last year. And it's like, wow, maybe we're not going to be able to afford all the vehicles we have, put it that way. That insurance cost has just went through the roof. Land division's next Monday, but I'm not sure if the ones we had on tonight will get there or not. Bob, I honestly not 100% sure on that, but we'll see. If they do get there, I'll notify a couple people. And other than that, not a whole lot. Hopefully Ken's got the trucks filled up with some sand, because he's probably going to be sanding some hills in the morning.
Yes. Just further to your comments on the county's insurance, it doesn't help that they had one or two multi-million-dollar settlements. So, Councillor Jeffrey.
I'm trying to stay healthy.
Good for you.
Stay home. I'm listening to what they tell me. Stay home.
That's great. Councillor Martin.
So I too took part in the Huron Perth Healthcare Alliance community engagement. One thing of note on that was staffing is definitely the primary issue, which is not surprising. I know our other partners like Spruce Lodge and stuff, similar issues. And a lot of that comes down to housing. And if we could help in that, that could help our healthcare, and it would all be lovely. The other thing, I did reach out to Steve Sauter at Upper Thames about their tree power program. Stratford had just had a really successful, I believe in like less than an hour, they had 300 trees claimed by the residents. And I reached out to see what that program looked like and how we could implement that in Perth South. So him and John, and we had a great meeting. Sue had expressed interest earlier in helping put more trees in Perth South. So
Did you call back in probably 15 or 20 minutes?
sorry about that. It was some really great information. Really what that comes down to is there's been a real increased demand for trees right now. So whether we can do it or not will come down to a few things, like whether the nursery and whether we can get some sponsorship, but I will send that out, the information that we got, to the rest of the council to take a look at.
Yes, that would be great. And that would have to be for next spring, of course, now, because I know when I talked to Upper Thames quite a while ago, they were out of trees. So.
Well, what they mentioned, Bob, was that the fall might be a better place because both London and Stratford run their tree programs out in the spring, which puts a heavy burden on the nurseries. So they have space for a program in the fall, which is a great time to plant too.
Yep, that's right. Councillor Silberg.
Perhaps you could reach out to Sabo Bayfield on those trees. Most of the trees I have bought, I've got through a Sabo Bayfield.
Yes, that would work too. Councillor Silberg.
I just wondered, Stratford's uptake on the trees is probably all the new housing, and there's no trees in those developments as opposed to us having nice mature trees in our yards. I had a friend who said, I said, the birds wake me up early in the morning. And they said, we don't have birds, we don't have trees. And I never really thought about that. So just a plug for that country living component. Back to the Howick thing. I totally, like, it's funny actually, Bill was talking about, I think, page 36, and I was looking at page 38 with the recommendation as opposed to the resolution. I just feel like as of late, we've been really bombarded with every municipality's ongoings in our consent agenda. So I wonder if that kind of, I totally get our stance on it, but I wonder if that just kind of got washed down in it for that reason amongst other municipalities. I'm not sure, because it is a pretty lengthy resolution in that regard, just to that specifically. Had library board meeting on the 8th, nothing overly exciting there. And then on Thursday, I realized I totally forgot about my Zoom PCIN call on Wednesday evening. So I don't have anything to report from that meeting, but when I get the minutes, I will share them for the council package. Otherwise, that's about it. Staying at home, working from home.
Great, thank you. Yes, I've been attending weekly meetings with the Zoom or call in with the HPPH. I did attend, I missed the roundtable, so I got to talk to the young lady about diversity on my own. So that was great. She's a great individual. And we hopefully have things under control as far as COVID, but that seems to be ever changing. And I'm supposed to have a call. I was supposed to have a call today with the Premier, and Jim probably got notice too, but that's been moved off till Friday. I think we should send a letter of thanks off to our winter staff for thanking them for their work and diligence, especially through this past winter with the COVID and everything. And we certainly appreciate their support and their dedication through that tough time, as well as still like to thank all our staff for their dedication through the COVID times. And they're doing an excellent job as far as planning and working safe. So we certainly appreciate that. With that, I have a motion that the report regarding the mayor's monthly activity for report for the month of March 2021, dated April 20th, 2021, be received for information. Moved by Deputy Mayor Aitchison, second by Councillor Corby. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay.
Actually, Bob, I got one little thing to add. Because
Yeah,
I just remembered your monthly report you said in a OFA meeting.
yep,
Unfortunately, I was busy that morning.
yes, I
They
did.
did send us a letter. I know Bob got it and I got it and Ken got it and all the public works. And the OFA wanted to know what we were going to do for them as far as infrastructure and roadside cutting and tree trimming and a bunch of things. And so I talked to John McClellan and I actually talked to Ken here on Monday. And they're going to put in a joint response back to the OFA.
Okay,
I also indicated that, you know, it's nice to be able to do things for them. And I said, perhaps we should put in there about farming the road allowance, running down the road with tankers, full and half load season, and leaving all kinds of mud in the roads without ever thinking of cleaning it off. So that response is going to include that, I believe. Can you make sure it does? Because I'm not going to see the written, but we've all had problems with farming the road allowance, and it's a liability for you. So it's time to address it. And when they've sent us that, I want that information sent back to them.
sounds good. Thank you. Okay, so I have a motion that bylaw 19/2021 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an Ontario transfer payment agreement with Her Majesty the Queen in the right of Ontario as represented by the Solicitor General be given first, second, and third readings and be properly signed and sealed. Moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Orr. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And I have a motion that bylaw 2021 being a bylaw to prescribe municipal development and servicing standards for all properties within the township of Perth South be given first, second, and third readings and be properly signed and sealed. Moved by Councillor Corvu, second by Councillor Zubrich. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. I don't believe we have any announcements. Any notice of motions? Councillor Jeffrey. You're on mute, Councillor Jeffrey. You have to unmute. There you
Can
go.
you hear me now?
Yep.
Hey, I just had a telephone call from a ratepayer who lives next door to the Dunsmore property where we were looking at the severance tonight.
Yes.
And he had asked for correspondence and he received none. He sent many emails and he just found out that we had dealt with the severance and he was not notified or given any correspondence about on how to even attend the meeting tonight that was going to be dealt with. So he really feels offended that his concerns have been ignored. So I was just going to pass that on to whoever, how we're going to deal with it, or who he feels that he has been ignored.
Well, I'll let the deputy mayor answer, but we are just passing a recommendation along to the county. His concern or voice should be heard at the land division, and he should receive notice from the county when that land division committee meeting is. Is that correct, Deputy Mayor?
100%. Any time for input from the neighbors or ratepayers or naysayers or supporters comes to land division.
So that's a county.
So I can relate to him that he will get notice from the land division of Perth County?
Yeah, that was, if he wants to contact somebody to ensure, that was Adam that handled that one, so he can contact and let Adam know that he's still expecting to have his voice heard at the land division.
Thank you kindly.
Okay, no problem. Public question period? We just had one, that was great. Confirmatory bylaw, the bylaw 20, which bylaw is this one? 2021? Yep. Being a bylaw. Okay, yeah, 2021 being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, ratify matters dealt with by resolution of the Township of Perth South be given first, second, and third readings and be properly signed and sealed. moved by Counselor Jeffrey, second by Counselor Corby. All in favor? Opposed, carried. And motion that the meeting does hereby adjourn at 9:34 p.m. Moved by Counselor Martin, second by Counselor Orr. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Have a great evening.
You get to talk to Dougie Ford on Friday by the looks of my last email, but again, no time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send the kids back to school.
I might have had about 20 calls on that, maybe, or 50.
Well,
Around
that,
here, I'm real happy. Dr. Clausen agreed.
Us rural bandwidth people can't have online learning. So Pass that
2.7
along
billion
for
in the
me.
budget yesterday
I
for
know.
rural broadband. Not
Uh-huh.
million, billion.
not
Yeah.
that, not the end of the line, right, Sam?
That's right.
Oh, and Melinda, I did slightly hear that Quadro was maybe gonna do the rest of Perth South.
Well, according to my neighbor, they said our road is not in their 5-year plan. So
I think they're adding more people to that tower in Evan Bank because we're getting slower here again.
Bob and my internet's actually not too bad.
yeah.
Yeah.
you live on a paved road too, Jim.
And Lizette, and Lizette's, no, Liz has, Rebecca's is good too.
Melinda, I heard that maybe line 2 was next on the list.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Have a good night, everyone.
You too.
Bye.
Anyway, have a good night. She's bedtime.
Yeah.
Steve.
Good night.
Good night.